All the creatures are pleased by loving words, and therefore we should address with words that are pleasing to all. For there is no lack of sweet words. A quote by Chanakya, also known as Kautilya or Vishnugupta, who lived around 300 BC. He was an Indian teacher, philosopher, and a royal advisor. He served as the chief advisor to both Chandragupta and his son Bindusara, whose son was the Emperor Ashoka. He has given two great treatises, the Arthashastra on economics and the Niti Shastra on politics. Hello, my name is Malati, and this is my show titled The Impressive Empress. Here I talk to women leaders to understand what it takes to become a leader, to understand the journey from within, the journey to becoming a female leader with a higher purpose. To achieve whatever one sets out to do without losing oneself as a human being requires structure, organization, and an acceptance of people as they are. Oftentimes, communication is the key to understanding differences amongst people, and words are not the only means of communication. Also, the same words will have different meanings to different people in different situations. Communication is not complete until it is understood as it was meant to be understood. But only sometimes is that so very important. Our today's guest, Ms. Gayatri Puranik, is an entrepreneur based out of Germany. She has been running her Ayurveda business for over 20 years now. She thinks a certain kind of leadership comes naturally to everyone and is grateful for being a woman and also the period in which we are living in. Listen on as we discuss with Gayatri about her journey with Ayurveda and what makes her the impressive empress. Good afternoon, Gayatri. Welcome to our show titled The Impressive Empress, where we are talking to women leaders from various walks of lives, trying to understand their inner journey, their journey to becoming a leader with a higher purpose. So, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Malati. It's an honor for me to be amongst the women that you have chosen for your show.
Can you briefly introduce yourself?
Right. So my name is Gayatri Puranik. I was born in Bombay. I come from Maharashtra, and I did my schooling mostly in Bombay, and just 3-4 years in Bangalore. And it was a very, very nice time in Bangalore, and the memory as well as the experiences have remained with me all my life. And Bangalore is very different to Mumbai. And so, and I was only between the third and the sixth standard over there, but were very, very deep experiences. So that has kind of, really remained with me. And later on, I was very interested in languages. So after my college, I tried to find ways of learning languages, doing translation, etc. And that's how I finally landed up in Europe. Regarding my profession, our family is in Ayurvedic manufacturing. Mm-hmm. So after doing my university course in Germany for translation and interpreting, I was looking towards finding business contacts for the family business in Germany, and realized that many people are interested in Ayurveda, but doing business with India is not so simple. So at that point of time, I decided, okay, we could start with an import business or a kind of an office in Germany so that it's easier for the people to talk to somebody here in Germany itself rather than do business with India. And that's how I started the business. Obviously, it was something different from what I had qualified to do, which was translating. On the other hand, when I did start and got a little deeper into Ayurveda, I discovered that I was not just translating language, but translating concepts. So it's a whole cultural concept of Ayurveda, which then needs to be translated as a holistic concept into a cultural setting and a language setting, which is very different.
Yeah, I think you probably moved to Germany sometime in the late 80s or early 90s. So the culture then would have been totally different, and I can understand what you exactly meant. So it was the cultural orientation into Ayurveda that you had to give to the people here. So therein, I think even though you moved from economics to psychology and then to applied linguistics, I think that must have helped you start off or kickstart your business here in Germany. Am I right?
Yes, yes. In Bombay, I studied economics and psychology. I did my BA in economics and psychology. Many people at that point of time, they said, how can you do these things together? I mean, one doesn't seem to have anything to do with the other. That was at that point of time in the mid 80s or beginning of the 80s. And today you wouldn't say that, but at that point of time it was, what do these two things have to do with each other?
Exactly.
But it was very interesting. And BA is relatively dry at the university in India. These are relatively dry subjects. And psychology wasn't so dry, but economics was pretty dry. And but the psychology part was really interesting, and it helped me balance out. On the one hand, you have the psychology, which gives you, brings you closer to people. On the other hand, you have economics, which tries to give you a grounding to pragmatic realities, practical realities. So that was a good balance, I found.
I kind of like the interdisciplinary nature of subjects that you were offered even way back in 80s. So as an entrepreneur, when you started here, and as a woman moving from India to a very, very different culture, especially at the time that you came in, how was it to start your business, and how did you manage all the challenges that came with it?
Well, ignorance is bliss. So, and I find that we as Indians have a very optimistic view and a very optimistic attitude to approaching new things. So that helped me a lot. And it was, challenges came naturally to me. And it was, as a woman, I didn't really think that there should be something that I shouldn't be doing. So I just got down to doing it. And but you're right, it was actually the bank managers who kind of felt I shouldn't be doing so many things in Germany. The bank managers were a little worried.
In Germany? The bank managers in Germany?
Yes, the bank managers in Germany were a little worried that as a woman, I am starting off on my own. And I was pregnant at that point of time with my second daughter. So the bank manager actually told me, maybe you should really think about, enjoying motherhood and, take life a little peacefully.
Okay. And obviously you didn't pay heed to him. But what was the actual idea behind his advice or suggestion?
I presume to a certain extent, it is also this conservative attitude that you do have in society in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember at that point of time, one of our neighbors, she was working in a bank and she was pregnant as well. And when I spoke to her, whether she would continue working after she had her child, she was shocked. And she looked at me and said, I'm not going to give birth to a child to go out and work after that. So I realized, oh, people look at things differently in Germany. In India, if you grow up in a city and if you grow up in a middle class family, then if you have an education, you have the privilege of having enjoyed an education. In India, it is not considered, in Germany, you have the word called Rabenmutter, which means a mother who's not taking care of her children properly. You don't have that concept in India.
Yeah.
So here, women who went out to work when their children were still small were considered neglecting mothers, not taking their responsibility seriously. And that was not the case in India. So, I always had this, on the one hand, the Indian side of looking at things, as well as here in Germany, you have a different way how people look at things. Yeah. So this contrast was always there.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned that. I was part of the German delegation that went to India last year, an international conference where mothers from 7 different countries were invited. And the concept was Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam and the role of mothers. And for this, before I went to that conference, I had some discussions, some interviews with the German mothers here. And this concept of Rabenmutter was spoken. And what would be interesting to note is that today it is exactly the opposite way that the society perceives the mother. So it's a challenge everywhere for the woman and the mother, whether you're working or not working, whether you're career oriented or not. I think the situation during that conference emerged that the situation is the same everywhere. We are just on different levels of progress or regress, whichever way you want to see it. But in spite of these hurdles, you have moved now to the 33 years of Ayurveda in Germany. Correct me if I'm wrong.
20 years of Ayurveda, or 23 to be exact.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have been in Germany since 1989. And it's easy for me to note this date because it was 3 weeks before the Berlin Wall came down.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, like you mentioned, it was a very conservative society in Germany at that point of time. And as a woman, I would like to understand a little bit more as an Indian woman, as a woman of color. In fact, this is a question from one of the audience in Germany. Anuja is her name. So she would like to know your journey as an international woman of color, and how was it to set up a business here in Germany, and how was it? Was it easy or difficult to hold on to your Indian roots?
As a woman of color, I didn't really find it very difficult. I have had the occasional comment or the occasional thing where somebody kind of, makes a negative remark. But it was more on account of me being a foreigner, as an Ausländer, so to speak, than on being a woman of color. And but I was always very firm in standing up for what was commented on. I didn't take anything lying down. And I remember we were at the Frankfurt airport, and somebody kept passing by and saying, "You foreigners, you this, that, and the other." I kind of let him pass by once, second time, the third time when he kind of crossed again and he was saying, I said, listen, I pay my taxes. I'm doing everything that is required of me. If you don't shut up, I'm going to call the police. So, and I was loud enough for the other people around me to take note. And believe me, he went away as fast as he could. So I wasn't going to take any of that, and whenever something like this happened, touch wood, it wasn't very often. I was quite firm in not allowing that to upset me or, make me feel any discomfort or anything. And starting a business, I think my greatest difficulty was coping with the German strictness of discipline and structure and the terminology for the business and, the accounting, as well as understanding the seriousness with which Germans take taxes.
Yeah,
So,
no.
the deadlines that you have to keep to and how exact everything has to be, the preciseness with which everything needs to be done, the correctness of your language and your words and, that precision and that depth of structure and discipline. That was what I found more getting used to than any other factors.
Yeah. I mean, new land, everything new, you have to learn everything. But then over the years, one also has to retain that and also apply them correctly when the time comes. Here I remember Swami Chinmayananda once, jokingly said, before the exams, I'm wise. After the exams, I'm wise. But during the exams, I'm otherwise.
Yes.
Yeah. So these are things that kind of new learnings, constant learning keeps our brain fresh. But it's very interesting that in spite of all the little challenges that comes and bogs us down, you have stood your ground, not paralyzed by fear, not bogged down by frustration. I know when you mention taxes, what it is. So how frustrating it can be as a businesswoman, I understand that. But in spite of all that, how did you hold on to your tenacity, or how did you hold on to your vision or your long-term goal?
Yes. When I said that I was interested in learning languages, I had noticed over the many years how important communication is in bridging differences amongst people. So a language as a means of communication can either make you feel anxious, or it can also make you feel easy, comfortable, and in sync with another human being. And so I kind of felt if I wanted to do something for myself, as well as for the people around me and society, I can do it best by bridging this gap of understanding through communication. And when I came from India to Europe, one of the main reasons why I did come on my first major trip was to learn Italian. I was in Italy for 1 year, and that was because there were some Italians who used to come to India, speak to my father, and were very interested in Ayurveda. They wanted to do business with Ayurveda, and but in those years, those were the so-called hippie years. They used to come in shorts and sandals. And my father was, how can we do business with somebody who looks like that? And but they were very sincere. So he was well, if you really want to learn languages, maybe it'll be helpful if you also see the culture, and it would be helpful if somebody from the family understands the foreign culture, the foreign setup, and will help us bridge this gap in communication. And in those days, I just thought, yes, my father is saying this. And, as long as I get to come here and study, that's okay. But I must say, I think it was one of the wisest things that my father did do in allowing me to come here. Because today, when I see the situation in which we are with Ayurveda in Europe and Ayurveda in India, I realize how necessary it is to be able to bridge these gaps in understanding through communication, through proper communication.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit on that, about what exactly you mean by communication and proper communication? Because you seem to be bridging two cultures, and where were the difficulties? And have there been any instances where you were faced with a roadblock or maybe a failure and you came out of it?
Yeah. When I say communication or proper communication, I mean, if you take Ayurveda, which is my area of business, and the area of communication as well, Ayurveda is a system of health as well as of healing. And here in Germany, you have allopathy or modern medicine. The terminology that is used to describe human functioning is very different in these two sciences. So, if you say, yes, your Vata dosha is disturbed or your Pitta dosha is disturbed, is very different to saying, for example, that you are nervous, which is Vata dosha is disturbed, or saying that you have acidity, which is Pitta dosha is disturbed. So here, a modern medicine person will not understand when you say Pitta dosha needs to be corrected or balanced. Yeah? But if you just translate that, I mean, I have spoken this in 3 words. Pitta dosha is disturbed. But the concept and the whole mechanism that goes behind that, and is it only acidity? There is a lot more to Pitta dosha is disturbed than just saying acidity. No? So, that communication in a particular context is a very important. And if I can give one small example, we translate the word pachan, which means digestion, into English, and then again into German, which means Verdauung. There is a lot that is lost in translation here.
Yes, so that's a very beautiful explanation that you gave. It really brings the focus to what proper communication really means. Yes. So, so what exactly was your mission when you started with your Ayurveda business in Germany, and how far have you come now? What have you realized in these years?
So my mission was to bring these two continents together so that they can understand each other. I didn't really have any Alexander kind of ambitions to conquer Germany or to convert the world and make it a better place. I mean, that was not my ambition. But it was, if there is somebody who is interested and is interested in learning, then to be able to enable that person to understand it, Ayurveda, as it is understood in India. So it is not a half-baked kind of understanding, which happens when you do a literal translation of words, but to understand the whole concept and the holisticness of the concepts in Ayurveda, which, obviously go beyond the body needs and the body functions, because it goes into your mental capacity as well as your, I have to use the word spiritual, because again, it's a translation. It isn't even dharmic, but it's, your soul, your feeling as a human being, and the fact that you as a human being are without nationality, without color, without all these other differences that you see, you are your soul. So to give that kind of understanding, that complete understanding of being a human being as is understood in yoga and Ayurveda, when you talk of a human being, to bring that across even to the Germans who are, or Europeans, or whoever is interested in learning more about Ayurveda. And how far have I come? Well, yes and no. Yes, with the business, I have come quite a long way. But how far have I come in bringing this concept across? Well, business has kept me very busy. So, just getting that concept across, I haven't really have had much time for that. Where you're going out to meet people and talking to them, etc., etc. That has only happened through the website or through the flyers, through the information, now and then through workshops. But business itself, the daily stuff of making sure that things come on time, that this and this is done on time, that has kind of kept me quite tied to the economics of running a business.
Yeah. In your own brief way, you said, change what you can change, leave what you cannot change, and be wise enough to distinguish between the two. So I think once again you have done quite well in that, and ensured that you have a successful business. And how exactly would you say Ayurveda has impacted the society around you?
In Germany?
Yeah.
Ayurveda, I think, has impacted the society around me without it necessarily being understood as Ayurveda. I mean, if you look at many of the recommendations that you see on proper nutrition, healthy eating, etc., in Germany, a lot of that comes from Ayurvedic concepts and Ayurvedic understanding. Where you say, yes, you have to eat slowly, for example, take a meal peacefully. Earlier, in India, when we eat together, we don't usually talk so much. And whether it be a family or even when you invite people, you usually eat, but you talk before and after. And in Germany, for example, when you invite people, you sit at the table and you talk and you eat at the same time. Because the concept of a meal time being a social event in Germany, in the West, is that you are socializing. So keeping quiet at meal times or during a meal when you've invited friends is not done. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I understand that, yes.
Yeah, so this is a contrast, but if you look at all the recommendations that are given on healthy eating slowly, eating properly, warm meals, how much, even this intermittent fasting kind of concept. There are many concepts that come from Ayurveda. So what I do see around me is that these concepts are being taken up. I see Ayurvedic recommendations in many of these concepts without that being considered as Ayurvedic.
So it's kind of a positive impact on the way things are looked at.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And you could kind of, go back to see, okay, where could they have received these concepts? I mean, you do have Ayurvedic courses being conducted in Germany. You have a lot of courses being conducted on Ayurvedic nutrition. You have a lot of people who are interested, but in, trying to make sure that they make that cultural bridge to approaching a local person who wants to be healthy and count nutrition as part of their health regime. It helps when you don't come with complicated words and exotic concepts, but you kind of put it across simply.
Yeah. Again,
Yeah.
proper communication, as you would call it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, reflecting over these 23 years, what do you think are the key milestones that happened to you and has brought you to the position that you are in today?
The key milestones have been, well, if I look back on it, I mean, it becomes difficult to kind of see. No, I've had these difficulties, and there's something that needs to be done, and you just get down to doing it. And later on, I mean, I really, have to kind of think, what were the milestones? There were, well, in business, you have situations where, and you have these waves where difficulties come and then they are solved and then they go. So right now it's a little difficult for me to really pick on particular milestones that have made an impact.
Would you consider yourself to have been successful? And if yes, how do you measure your success?
Yes, I mean that's a question I can answer, and also perhaps as a woman.
Yeah, wonderful. Icing on the cake, yeah.
Yes, yes. I am of the opinion that oftentimes success is measured in the world as we know it today, which is still a very male-dominated world in numericals, in quantities, in numbers, where if you don't have a turnover which is 1 million, 2 million, 10 million, whatever, that might not count as your success. And whereas I feel, I mean, I have been a single mother all along. So I have also tried to maintain a certain balance between numbers and what is also Ayurvedic. It's not always the quantity, but also the quality. So, and one of my tenets is always that in all my success, I should not forget, and that's something which is important to me. I not forget that I am a human being and I remain a human being to everybody around me. And this is a quality which I find is missing in the definition of success in the world as we know it today. So when you ask me what is success, how do I measure success? If I set out to do something and I achieve it, then that is success.
So from where you started to where you have come today, of course, so many years have flown by and so many ups and downs you have seen. And what are the lessons that you have learned that you can share with us today for the benefit of others?
Yeah. One is to, yes, I mean, many people say it, believe in yourself, believe in the goodness of the people around you. At the same time, you have to be aware that there are pitfalls, and if I may quote my daughter, you asked a question earlier on about my Indianness as well as, non-Indianness. We come with a certain innate sense of trust from India. Or I noticed this as a difference. We trust. We trust everybody. We meet strangers with a trusting attitude. this is what I could give my daughters as well. Trust people. And at one of my second daughter, she kind of said, Mama, you have taught us to be trusting, but it doesn't always work. In Germany, it's a little different. So I said, yeah, how is it different? She says, you have taught us to trust till somebody shows you that they are not worthy of your trust. And here it's the other way around. You don't trust them till they show themselves worthy of your trust.
Again, you probably had to use your power of communication to bridge these two differences.
Yes. So I have kind of learned to combine both, to trust and not to trust, and see when is what appropriate.
Yeah.
In which cultural concepts. So yes, that is something I think I could give as well, that we are in a different world now. And although we learned as children to trust, we learn also as we grow up that maybe it's not the first thing that you need to do, but I think you shouldn't lose that attitude of trustfulness.
Yeah. In fact, trust is one of the top skills that is recommended for good leadership. So I think we are doing fine in being trustworthy ourselves, and maybe use a bit of caution when we are to trust somebody else. Yes. Yeah. So I would like to have a kind of a rapid fire round with you. Are you ready?
Yes, I hope so. Yeah.
Which woman inspires you the most and why?
My grandmother.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Why? She used to maintain a spirit of giving continuously, and still exude a kind of authority which was unquestionable.
Yeah. And your greatest strength?
My optimism.
Wow. What do you think is the most significant barrier for a woman to assume leadership position?
I think it is her own uncertainty to accept that she can lead and she can move things and achieve whatever she sets out to achieve.
Great. And how would you suggest that she overcomes that?
Her uncertainty?
Yeah.
I would, really look back on our Indian mythology and take the strength from our Indian goddesses and the message that we get from our philosophy, which actually says that we are humans and we are equal as humans.
Wonderful. With that, I think we have come to the end of our conversation. It was amazing walk through your life journey thus far, and I wish you loads of success in your business going forward. And before I close, I would like to ask you one important question about your wonderful mission that you have taken up in the field of Ayurveda. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. It is my passion. So tell me when I should stop. Because that is definitely something that I can talk for a very long time.
Yeah.
And we are coming into a phase where Ayurveda is also getting into a new dynamism in India as well as abroad. Ayurveda is also recognizing that we have to step up to the world and open up, and that we have a long tradition which is extremely valuable. But we need to open up to include the realities as they exist today. I think in India also we're going through a transition from a stage and a phase where life before digitalization was still relatively peaceful. And we are now coming into a different phase where we have to take account of what are the changes in life today, in the society today, and that Ayurveda also has to take account of these changes and show us how we can use Ayurveda in a new way. I mean, Ayurveda doesn't change. The principles remain the same. They have remained the same all over the world as well as all a long time because they are so inherently natural. What needs to change is how we can interpret these principles in a new circumstance, in a new surrounding. And that is going to be the challenge for all of us. And I'm really looking forward to that.
Great. Wish you, again, loads of success in that initiative of yours also. And thank you so much once again for being on our show.
Thank you, Malati. It's been a pleasure.
Calm and humorous with analytical thinking, Gayatri has been able to empathize and understand the other's point of view, taking a sincere effort towards maintaining a balance. She believes motherhood or active parenthood prepares one for any kind VUCA situation. Disruptive, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and diverse kinds of situations. Applying Indian philosophy and the motherly understanding to empathize and cope with human behavior have been her biggest life lessons. With a clear understanding of cultures and communications, and aided by her passion for Ayurveda, Gayatri marches ahead with her mission of connecting Ayurveda across the world by getting the fraternity to stand together with a vision for the furtherance of Ayurveda. Thank you, Gayatri, for being there, serving the cause of Ayurveda. Salutations to such inspirers in our lives. Thank you so much for listening in. I look forward to receiving your comments on how you like this conversation and if you found it inspiring. I'm also glad to receive any questions you would like me to ask our next guest. Do write to me at Bhogya.online. Also, please do visit us at Bhogya.online slash the Impressive Empress to get to know more of such leaders and how you can lead like the Impressive Empress.